I slipped into bed that night, certain sleep would come easily, but the moment the sheets shifted and something warm traced across my thigh, I knew I wasn't alone. And what followed still haunts me every time I close my eyes. That night, I pulled the blanket up to my shoulders, hoping the weight of it would bring me comfort. The street outside was silent, too silent, the kind of quiet that makes every small sound echo in your chest. My body was heavy with exhaustion, but my mind refused to settle. I shifted onto my side, telling myself I only needed to breathe deeply and let go. But as soon as my eyes began to flutter shut, I felt it. Pressure at the edge of the mattress, subtle but unmistakable. I froze. My first thought was that I'd imagined it. Houses creak, beds shift, but this wasn't that. This was steady, deliberate. Someone, or something, was sitting on the bed beside me. My chest tightened as the warmth spread closer to my legs, brushing against the thin fabric of my shorts. The sensation was slow, intentional, as though tracing my skin without ever fully touching it. My pulse raced. Every instinct screamed for me to move, but I stayed still, pretending to sleep, pretending not to notice. The presence seemed to lean in, closer, close enough that I could feel the shift of air along my cheek. My breath caught when I sensed it, a faint exhale, warm and steady, like lips hovering just shy of my skin. I told myself I was dreaming. That's all it could be. But dreams don't make the mattress dip deeper, inch by inch. Dreams don't lift the edge of your blanket, exposing your leg to the cold air. And yet, that's exactly what was happening. The blanket slid downward, slow, measured, as if testing how far it could go. My skin prickled as the air wrapped around my exposed thigh. Then, as if in answer to my silence, something brushed against me. It wasn't harsh, it wasn't cold. It was the kind of touch that lingered, curious, deliberate, filled with a strange kind of possession. I wanted to cry out, but the sound lodged in my throat, strangled by the fear and something else I didn't want to name. And just when I thought it couldn't go further, it did. Fingers, cool at first, then warming, skimmed along my leg, tracing upward until they paused at my hip. I bit my lip, trembling, my heart hammering so loud I swore it filled the room. The air itself seemed alive now, thick with something I couldn't see but could feel pressing closer, watching, waiting. But here's the thing. What I felt next wasn't just terrifying. It was intoxicating. The scent drifted in again, that mix of earth and something sweet, pulling me deeper into the moment. I hated myself for leaning into it, for letting my body react when my mind begged me not to. I wanted to believe it would stop there, that maybe it was only testing boundaries. But I was wrong. So very wrong. The mattress shifted again, deeper this time, like a body lowering itself beside me. My breath quickened, shallow and uneven, but I didn't dare move. Every second stretched into eternity, every heartbeat thundering louder in my chest. Then came the touch, slow, deliberate, trailing along my waist. It wasn't just a caress, it was a claim. I clenched my fists under the blanket, fighting the urge to push it away, but my body betrayed me. My skin tingled where invisible fingers traced patterns I couldn't understand. They lingered at my hip, pressing just lightly enough to make my muscles tighten. I bit my lip hard, desperate to stay quiet. But silence only seemed to invite more. That's when the air changed, heavier, thicker, and then warmer. A presence leaned closer, so close that I could feel its breath sliding along the curve of my neck. My eyes stung with the effort of keeping them shut, but I couldn't bear to open them. What if I saw nothing? Or worse, what if I saw something? A faint sound vibrated against my ear, not words, not quite a whisper, just a low hum that made my stomach clench. The weight on the mattress shifted again, deliberate, careful. I felt knees press lightly into the bed behind me. My body tensed as the sheets tightened around me, pulled slightly as if gripped by unseen hands. And then, the fingers returned. They brushed my stomach this time, gliding upward in a path so slow it made my breath hitch. Every nerve in my body was on fire. Fear mixed with something else, something I didn't want to admit. I arched toward the touch without meaning to, and the second I did, a soft exhale fanned across my cheek, almost like approval. I told myself to stop, to move, to scream, but I couldn't, because part of me was waiting to see what it would do next. Then came the scent, stronger now, intoxicating, earthy and sweet. It wrapped around me like smoke, filling my lungs until my head felt light. My body trembled, but not entirely from fear. The presence leaned closer still, and I felt it, lips grazing the side of my jaw. Not a kiss, just enough to leave me trembling, torn between terror and desire. The fingers tangled in my hair, twisting strands slowly, almost tenderly, before releasing them. My scalp tingled, my chest rising and falling in sharp, uneven breaths. Another whisper, closer this time. I couldn't make out the words, but I understood the tone. Possessive, certain. I thought that was the end of it. But then the blanket shifted again, sliding lower, bearing more of me to the cool air. My pulse roared in my ears as invisible fingers traced along my thigh once more, slower this time, bolder. And just when I thought I couldn't take any more, it paused, waiting, testing me. I swallowed hard, my voice a breath I barely recognized. What do you want? No answer, only silence. Silence thick enough to choke me. And then, just when I thought the presence might vanish, I felt it again, fingers brushing my throat, stopping at the hollow where my heartbeat raced wildly. It lingered there, pressing just enough for me to know the truth. I was no longer in control. The weight on the mattress deepened, and I felt the shift as if someone were kneeling closer, pressing into the bed on either side of me. My chest tightened. My breaths came fast and uneven, and I wasn't sure if I was breathing for myself anymore, or for whatever was hovering just above me. Then it touched my throat again, fingers brushing along my pulse. Not hard, not cruel, just enough to remind me how fragile I was beneath its unseen presence. I wanted to cry out, but my voice stayed trapped, trembling somewhere deep in my chest. The blanket slid further down, cool air sweeping across my bare skin. Every inch of me prickled, hypersensitive. My body wasn't mine anymore. It was theirs, guided by a rhythm I couldn't break free from. My leg shifted slightly, though I hadn't moved it. I realized with dawning terror that it had been placed there, angled open, exposing me to something I couldn't see. I whispered into the darkness, desperate. Stop, but my body betrayed me. My back arched into the warmth that pressed so close. My skin flushed, shivering under every lingering trace of contact. I hated how much I wanted to feel more. And then the scent came again, overpowering, earthy and sweet, wrapping around me like invisible smoke. My head swam. The air itself tasted of it, intoxicating, thick. I felt lightheaded, as though my lungs belonged to something else. That's when I realized this wasn't just touching me. It was consuming me. A warm breath hovered over my lips, so close I could almost feel the shape of a mouth forming. My pulse hammered, each beat a countdown. I couldn't stop. I braced for the inevitable kiss, but it never came. Instead, the lips stopped just short, lingering, teasing, making me ache with anticipation I didn't want to admit. The fingers left my throat and drifted downward again, sliding over my ribs, pausing at my waist. The touch was slow, deliberate, savoring me. Then it stopped. Silence pressed down heavy, too heavy. My mind screamed to know why. I opened my eyes, finally, and wished I hadn't. At the end of the bed, the blanket was indented, knees pressed firmly into the mattress facing me, and above me, the faintest shimmer in the air, like heat waves rising off asphalt, hovered, shifting as if breathing. My stomach dropped. The whisper returned, soft and unrelenting, brushing directly against my ear. This time I understood it. One word, one promise. Mine. And then it was gone. The air lightened. The scent faded. The blanket smoothed itself, leaving no trace except for the racing of my heart and the trembling in my limbs. I sat frozen, staring at the empty space where it had been. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over, because the warmth still lingered on my skin, and I could feel the echo of that single word inside my chest, pounding in rhythm with my heartbeat. If you've ever felt a touch in the dark, if you've ever woken to something unseen and too close, you know exactly what I mean. Share your story in the comments below, and subscribe to Paranormal Sleep, because the next night it could be you.